Vision, nay. Thank you.
And any abstentions? Seeing none, that passes. So we will extend this section until 7:30 p.m., and I'll invite members of the CAPS Commission to come forward. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for allowing us some extra time today to present the work of the CAPS Commission from 2022 and 2023. I'm Jason McCulloch, and I'm joined today by co-commissioners Kamala Brown-Sparks and Najla Routsong, as well as some commission members who are present in the council chambers this evening.
Today we will describe the work completed in committees, the work completed by the commission, and then answer any questions that council members have about our work.
Partnering with Monroe County History Center to organize a public event on how to conduct Black genealogical research in fall 2023. The purpose of this event is to support Black people in the U.S. in doing oral history interviews and conducting genealogical research, allowing Black residents to have a stronger sense of connection to the community and enabling the entire community to have a greater understanding of the role that slavery in the U.S. South may have played in shaping our community. So far, we have identified an expert speaker on this topic and are coordinating to plan dates, location, and other details with the Monroe County History Center.
That was that one. Forward one more. Yeah, thanks. The research committee engaged the Student Agile Response Team, the START team, volunteers from Indiana University to gain insights to improve access to housing in Bloomington. Recommendations from that team include having the city take a more active role in developing very low-income housing. The major project of our committee worked on that report, and as a community partner, we recruited that team of undergraduate researchers from the Kelley School to perform original research into the improvements in our current state of housing. What they produced was a comparative market analysis in response to a meeting they pursued with John Zodi, the Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development. Their full report is available on our webpage, but the important thread is how we, as a commission, have been utilizing connections between IU and our commission, essentially erasing the margin that divides the town and gown. In the same way, the research we presented last year had partnered with Professor Doniel Bird to use 2 classes to do research. This year's participation with the START program provides an avenue for future research to utilize the capacious energy of undergraduates in our community rather than leaving them in the margins.
The Alternative Public Safety Outreach Committee was created as a temporary group working on behalf of the Commission to organize the Public Safety Town Hall event, conduct key stakeholder outreach, and prepare the 2023 Alternative Public Safety Report that was recently published on the CAPS Commission website.
The committee compiled 3 years of CAPS Commission research and community outreach, including consulting with scholarly and other experts, reports, case studies of best practices around the U.S., and quantitative data.
We would like to emphasize that this report does not merely represent the ideas of the committee or even the CAPS Commission. The report is based on the evidence and outreach gathered by volunteers from the Community Justice and Mediation Center, Help Ourselves Mutual Aid Group, the Net Impact Club of Indiana University, and the START team. In particular, we included life experiences and perceptions gathered from 45 community stakeholders and members who attended the Public Safety Town Hall. Also, 13 high-level key stakeholders of community safety, who include the chiefs of police and of fire. We also included several other key city department heads and community leaders from university, business and advocacy backgrounds, and 3 small groups of safety marginalized stakeholders at the overnight shelters and soup kitchen who serve some of our community safety needs. In summary, the report is a community-led response to the most urgent public safety needs perceived in the city.
To ensure the healthy and continuous functioning of the commission in times of conflict among members, the commission passed conflict resolution procedures for members that detail mediation procedures utilizing CJAM Center, contingencies, and recommendations for removal in case of members who refuse to resolve conflicts. This motion demonstrates organizational learning by the commission to utilize the valuable experience of past members in ways that will improve the experiences of future members.
This year, the major accomplishment of the commission was passing the 2023 Alternative Public Safety Report. This report briefly details the history of our commission, the mission and founding principles of our work on alternative public safety, the process we followed, and the recommendations we have made based on the community's perceived needs and priorities.
The process of reaching our recommendations loosely followed the steps of design-centered entrepreneurship as developed by Min Basadur and Michael Goldsby, where researchers first identify a problem and its key stakeholders loosely based on known information and perceptions, and then perform both qualitative analysis on existing data and qualitative research with stakeholders to uncover all the relevant facts, perceptions, and information related to the problem. Next, we redefined the problem using the new information, uncovering the fact-finding stage. Finally, we assessed all the solutions uncovered at the research stage, as well as all solutions and ideas presented by stakeholders to identify which solutions will be best to solve the problems we identified.
We chose this process because it is a proven way to develop innovative, evidence-based solutions to complex problems in a manner that includes the perspectives of all key stakeholders. Our committee enhanced the design-centered entrepreneurship process by conducting a root cause analysis in order to better understand the dynamic systems at play between the root causes that drive the public safety problems in our community, the causal mechanisms that allow the problems to continue to worsen, and the symptoms that make these problems increasingly apparent.
This research stage of the process was mostly conducted in 2021. In 2022, we completed this stage by selecting 5 of the best models of alternative public safety programs in the U.S. to use as case studies and conducted personal interviews with the operators and designers of those programs to learn what worked best in other cities similar to Bloomington. This allowed us to compile some initial ideas for improving community safety that we then tested, improved, and refined in our outreach stage.
In our outreach, we conducted personal interviews with 13 high-level individuals in the operations, advocacy, business, and political spheres of community safety. We asked stakeholders questions about their experiences and perceptions of public safety in Bloomington. We then coordinated with CJAM to hold a public safety town hall live event that was also recorded and posted to the city's YouTube, where community members were invited into small breakout groups to share their experience with public safety. We then conducted outreach with small groups of safety marginalized residents at the locations of the local service providers of overnight shelters and community meals.
The Commission's findings took a harm reduction approach in viewing marginalized people as those who are the most harmed by our existing public safety system, either actively through activities like racial profiling or the criminalization of drug users, or passively through the neglect of their basic safety needs. We found that both the local community members and the local data consistently identify unhoused people, people experiencing mental illness, and drug users as the most safety marginalized groups of people in Bloomington. They are the people steering the ship in this naval metaphor. The Commission also found that Black residents and other people of color are nationally more likely to be represented across all of these groups, which indicates that our existing city's public safety system marginalizes racial minorities. Therefore, designing a better system that directly serves the safety needs of these three groups is one way to substantively improve racial equity in Bloomington, especially in safety and justice outcomes.
Next, the commission utilized the research and outreach we had performed to create a root cause analysis to better understand how these three groups of people represent emergent symptoms of three structural root causes. The first is increasing economic pressure caused by market forces, the material deprivation of access to resources, and the negative psychological stigmas. These three root causes work together, creating harmful dynamic feedback loops in society, which make these three marginalized groups easier to fall into and harder to escape from every day. They represent the bottom of the iceberg, which is the root cause of the top part of the iceberg, and which is the most dangerous part of icebergs to passing ships, because they are unseen, yet powerful and inescapable forces.
After tracing each of the symptoms back to the systemic root causes, the Commission identified three key problem areas or systemic leverage points that can be resolved to create a more agile and responsive public safety system, allowing our community to adapt and respond accordingly to changing safety needs. These are represented by the trees on the map, which might also be icebergs, which represent structural obstacles the city must avoid to reach our safety goals. The first problem is the persistent and growing barriers to access of important safety resources in our community. The second is the confusing, frequently conflicting goals of existing city departments who are currently tasked with improving public safety, preventing them from prioritizing human safety in all of their operations. For example, we found that competing city goals of law or code enforcement and neighborhood and economic development at times undermine or even actively harm the goals of community safety. The third problem area we identified, and maybe the most important one, is a functional gap around coordinating a strategic response to these growing public safety threats. In our outreach, we found that despite all the stakeholders agreeing that a better coordinated response is needed to resolve these problems, no existing city departments view coordinating such a response as within their purview. So we then incorporated the findings. Next slide. We then incorporated the findings back into our initial problem question to ask, how might Bloomington design, fund, and maintain a public safety system that, one, removes all barriers to access of important resources needed for community safety, especially housing, mental health care, and drug treatment; two, resolves all institutional conflicts that arise between community safety and other goals in the interest of safety; and three, closes the institutional gap in a way that enables the community to take a more responsive approach to resolving our safety needs.
The main recommendation in the report that will solve these systemic problems is the creation of a new Department of Community Safety and Resilience, or a DCSR, that will prioritize upholding community safety above all other competing goals. This recommendation is contingent on the results of a feasibility study to be carried out by an independent firm to assess the economic, organizational, and legal implications of such a department. In the immediate and short term, the primary role of the DCSR will be to create a non-coercive, highly trained peer responder team who can respond to the growing numbers of service calls to 911 for low-level, nonviolent calls for help that do not require an armed law enforcement officer response, such as drug overdose, mental health crises, or elderly and infant care. This right care, right person model of crisis response is aimed at improving justice outcomes, yet it has also been demonstrated in other cities, such as Eugene, Oregon, and Denver, Colorado, to reduce both overall costs and crime. Why do we need a new department for this? It's true that this team will essentially support and improve the foundation set by existing city departments of police, fire, and community and family resources, and other departments who have already striven to prioritize our community's fundamental safety and resilience needs in their work. However, each of these departments lacks the explicit role of coordinating a citywide strategic approach to community safety, resulting in these problems that have continued to grow over time, despite the laudable and innovative efforts of these existing departments. Furthermore, the law enforcement-led crisis response protocols are perceived by the most marginalized stakeholders as excluding or even threatening their safety needs, effectively rendering them without access to emergency services. Allowing the DCSR to collaborate with existing fire and police departments to design safety-focused and mental health clinician-informed dispatch protocols will actively include the safety needs of the most marginalized people back into our community's emergency response services in a way that is impossible in the existing organizational structure for the reasons we have already mentioned. And it will allow the existing police and fire departments to focus their resources and time on their primary functions, which are preventing and solving crimes, fires, and serious accidents.
Besides this critical short-term role, however, the DSCR also has a fundamental long-term role. As the world around our city changes and the threats to our community's safety evolve over time, the DCSR will maintain public data dashboards that track, anticipate, and show it is responding to these threats. Once emerging service needs are identified, the DCSR will work to remove all barriers to access through activities such as forming partnerships with service providers, developing the capacity of those providers in the services most needed in our community, and securing sustainable funds for them from federal, state, and other sources. Organizationally, the DCSR will enable the city combine several of the most important safety-related services into one department, whose main objective is human safety, while working to identify and resolve competing goals that exist in other departments that directly impact safety. Unlike any existing city departments, the DCSR will have the explicit responsibility to coordinate a strategic response to reduce the most serious threats to our community safety. In short, a DCSR is the most efficient, cost-effective, and socially just way for Bloomington to improve safety for all of its residents.
Next slide. In addition to reducing crime, cost, and injustice, a DCSR is expected to improve job satisfaction and staff retention of other staff or safety-related departments, who will no longer be expected to respond to crisis situations and long-term problems that are outside of their agency's main purview. It will also allow our city to become a model for community safety in Indiana and in the broader United States. Finally, we want to emphasize that this is not a recommendation for a top-down approach by the city to directly provide more kinds of services, but to consolidate, coordinate, and streamline the safety-related services that are already provided in the city, but in a way that will use evidence-based approaches to reducing the greatest threats to public safety in our community.
The feasibility study is expected to cost between $40,000 and $65,000, and a public audit could cost another $20,000 to $50,000. If this sounds like a lot of money, consider that the city paid just one consulting firm well over $200,000 in the last 3 years to make organizational assessments of city departments, with several of those reports costing upwards of $50,000 just to assess one department. Furthermore, BPD has requested and had approved a net increase of 50% of its budget over the last 4 years, from 2019 to 2023, including a 31% increase in 2022 and a 12% increase in the 2023 budget. Dedicating these relatively small amounts of funds now to conduct the next steps of due diligence in creating a DCSR will allow Bloomington to begin utilizing city resources to enable our community to provide for our own safety needs and to solve our own problems in ways that have been shown to do the least harm to marginalized community members.
The CAPS Commission is committed to continuing to facilitate this process of community problem-solving by conducting community outreach and creating an RFP or RFQ, selecting a firm, and ensuring it has access to the information needed to conduct its work. We also look forward to hearing your ideas on what should be included in a feasibility study. Overall, our constant aim in this work is to ensure that the community members whose lives are most impacted by these decisions will have the greatest control over them. We especially welcome your advice and guidance on improving this aspect of our work, as well as any other suggestions the council has for the commission. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you all very much. We have about a minute and a half or 2 minutes for questions. Are there any questions from council members? Whirlwind tour, may we follow up with the commission independently if we have questions and comments?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we would welcome that.
I'm sorry?
We would welcome that.
Great.
Yes.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yeah, there's so much happening in my mind, I can't really formulate a question in 2 minutes, but let alone listen to your answer. But I really appreciate your hard work, and I did not realize until tonight that you had a report on the alternative, from the alternatives to public safety on your website, I guess, since July 6th. So I just went to that and I downloaded it. So I'll be reading that and getting back to you. Thank you very much.
I do have a quick question. The purpose of the CAPS Commission was to do pretty much precisely what you've done, this report, which is to sort of summarize the problem and to recommend a solution. It might stand to logic that your next step is to disband, but I don't think that's in order at all. What do you think is the next phase of the CAPS Commission now that you've reached this initial conclusion? And can you answer that briefly?
I'll say it. Yeah. So the feasibility study that we recommend is will need follow-up, and so we think that will feed back into
And
things.
we'll have to make the RFP and RFQ with community members.
Yeah. We continue to work with community members to make the RFP and RFQ, and we're still doing outreach. We only got a small segment of the unhoused community and other marginalized community members, and so we're continuing to follow up with that.
So in other words, your role is to dig deeper into the data. This is just sort of a cursory overview of what needs to be done, and that there's deeper reports to follow?
Yeah, I think our report represents that we've done the due diligence that warrants spending the cost of the feasibility study and taking the next steps towards examining the feasibility of this approach. We hope so anyway. And in addition, we hope to increase the educational efforts by the commission. One of the recommendations in the report actually is for our own commission to continue and actually expand and do more regular outreach at those locations where safety marginalized people frequent in our community, because that's one lesson we learned from our outreach of this report, is that reaching those people does require us to go to those locations, and that is extremely valuable outreach that we collected at those locations.
That's the answer I hope to hear. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Routsong, Ms. Brown-Sparks, Mr. Mahalik, thank you very, very much for being with us tonight. So that completes the reports from the mayor and city offices. That takes us to council committees. I'm not aware of any reports forthcoming tonight. Seeing none, that brings us to our first of 2 periods of public comment. This is for items not on our legislative agenda this evening, so if you have comments on Ordinance 2314 or just on Ordinance 2314, we'll have an opportunity for that when we actually hear that piece of legislation. So this period of public comment, I see Mr. MG here in chambers. Are there others?
Maybe Charlotte over there.
I'm sorry, what?
Charlotte, sitting at the desk.
Okay, yes, I see two who would like to make, three who would like to make comments. Mr. Lucas, can you extend our invitation on Zoom, please?
Members of the public are joining us via Zoom and would like to comment, please let us know by raising your hand in Zoom, which you can do by clicking the Reactions tab or the More tab in your control bar. You can also let us know you'd like to speak by sending the meeting host a chat. I see one hand raised at the moment.
Okay, so that takes it to 5. Let's say 4 minutes per commenter. You'll notice that there is a timer up on screen that will help you pace your comments accordingly. So with that, let's actually begin here in chambers before we go to Zoom. Ms. Zitlow, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity of speaking. I hope you can hear me. For years and years and years, I've been concerned about these things that you've been struggling with. And when I heard that there was such a committee being requested to act from the city council, I was very happy to hear that. And some of the members of the group came to talk to me, and we discussed the intention and the findings that they've made. And I'm here to endorse them 100%. It seems to me one of the issues we've always had in this community, as people have had in many, is that there are a lot of things going on and they don't get connected. And they don't, and too often they're from the top to talk about things that are at the bottom. Not that that's a bad thing. Being at the bottom shouldn't be taken as a negative thing. But the people with lived experiences talking about the needs seems to me absolutely on target. And they come up with a very coherent and well-written report. And I'm just here to support it and encourage you to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zitlow. Mr. Lucas, who do we have on Zoom?
On Zoom, we have Jim Shelton.
Okay. Mr. Shelton, welcome. If you would please confirm your name for the record, and then you'll have 4 minutes.
Yes, my name is Jim Shelton. I'm with the Chamber, but I'm speaking at the moment on behalf of court-appointed special advocates, or CASAs. Just want to alert you and the public that our CASAs fall training will start on September 19th, run through October 19th. Applications will be due in just about a month on September 8th. The training, they are going to try different hours to see if this makes available to more people. It'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So the trainings have usually been in the evening, but the staff hopes this will open it up to some more people. We do have children right now in the court system because they've been abused and neglected that do not have a volunteer to serve as their CASA. So we invite the public to please consider that. You can go to monroecountycasa.org, click on the volunteer link and learn all the details, or you can call 333-2272 and talk to a staff member. So thank you for the opportunity to share that information.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Let's come here in chambers. Welcome. If you would state your name for the record, please, and then you'll have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Madam President, council members, distinguished staff. Always nice to follow Jim Shelton. This is Christopher MG from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. Just a little bit to unpack from today. It was great to hear the Earthkeepers report. I know I am well educated just by that collaboration and what they were able to bring to the community as far as elevating the conversation on some tactical applications on food waste. And it's great to be part of the CAPS report there. They reached out to the chamber and we did take part in that. And I just want to say that CATS is the reason I am part of a local government junkie for 28 years ago. I just started watching it and still talk with Iris Kiesling and other former council members regarding their tenure there. So I just want to make that brief note. I noted last week on the CIB, the Capital Improvements Board, the governing structure for the Convention Center expansion and what that sort of entails, and what we were hoping for is sort of a swift action from the council on getting an appointment made. And I just want to appreciate that you set together a 3 council member committee, put forth with this task with some due diligence and going for a qualified candidate that is both able. I think this is a great start. It's my hope that that the mayor will follow suit with opening up the application portal. The council appointee will be joining the likes of John Weikart, Joyce Pulling, and my boss, Chamber President Eric Spoonmore. So I just want to encourage the public to put in the application for that, anybody interested in hospitality and just the good of the community. And then the next item I wanted to bring up was the community survey, the 2023 that was brought up last week. It's my thanks to the NRC for both presenting and doing the work and conducting all of the research involved. You know, in the coming weeks, I'll be probably pointing out to some sort of less than admirable data within that report. But today, I just want to bring up some of the positiveness of the survey and the quality of life that we hold dear here, where 3/4 of the respondents did say it was good to excellent. And that's where I come here before council meetings to try to improve and try to keep is that thing called quality of life that we hold so dear. And that's, you know, that's public safety, that's the aesthetics of the community. So it all kind of goes into that. And we still have that. We hold that dear. The other thing I wanted to say is the city staff who were singled out in there. And I wanted to just say my personal satisfaction with them. I just provided an email to Scott Peterson over at Twin Lakes on the job that he does. I know Public Works will be speaking later, and the job they do on sanitation is amazing. And Michael Large and all of the Adam Waste and all the group there do a wonderful job. So it's important to note that. I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. MG. Mr. Lucas, just so I can stay on track, anyone else on Zoom? Okay, thank you. Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. Please state your name for the record, please, and then you'll have 4 minutes.
My name is Nicholas Foyles. I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana Recovery Alliance here in Bloomington, Indiana. Thanks for having me. Like I said, I'm here as the Executive Director of the Indiana Recovery Alliance. I'm here to represent those that do not have the privilege to be here to speak for themselves. I have the distinct pleasure to serve a population that rarely gets a voice. They are often suffering from one or several of society's most debilitating problems: incarceration, drug misuse, mental illness, HIV or HCV infection, and or homelessness. All are curable or treatable problems. And yet, most of our population that I serve are inflicted with one or many of these problems. And it is my pleasure to speak for those who can't come here to speak for themselves. Not only are there solutions to these problems, but a lot of them are the result of poor treatment options. I was asked by the CAPS board to discuss these with them and to give my opinion, whatever that might be. I was born and raised in Bloomington. I've been through every side of this, been in the jails, been in the prisons, been in recovery now for a long time. I serve the population that no one hears about. I hear the population that are dying. I serve the population that are unhoused and can't find housing. Things like stopping systemic incarceration for small victimless crimes is a huge barrier or a huge change to what the outcomes are for these people. You know, small petty crimes that they don't deserve long sentences for. There are other treatment options that are way more viable. Evidence has already laid this out, as the CAPS board has said. The main thing it's funny, it's the first time I've ever been here, and I didn't think I'd be nervous. I'm nervous, that's funny. The idea that we look at these things and we think, oh, a CAPS report, and it goes on, and we see the report, and for me, it's visceral. It's every day, you know? I lose usually 1 to 3 participants within a given 5 or 6 month period. All curable problems, all things that can be solved by something like this that would set a precedent for having people treated like human. Charlotte Zitlow said something about connection, and like that's all it is. These people just need connection. Something like the CAPS board could serve for my people, the people that I take care of every day, to have better outcomes in their lives. There are poor treatment options in Indiana. They are all usually for profit or far away out of our tenure or of our reach, you know? And I just think that something like this could provide the people that I serve better outcomes and keep them alive, hopefully. And that's, I mean, I could talk for another minute, but that's pretty much all I had to say, is that not one of those people is going to be here to speak for themselves. So I'll be here to speak for them, and that they're just want to be housed, connected, and treated. You know, that's it. And so if this serves in any way to do that, those 3 solutions they labeled when they went there, I was watching them as we started talking about this, and they talk about removing all barriers to access of housing, drug treatment, and mental health care. That's a hard thing to do, but we could do small things that made huge impact. You know, we have 300 homeless people here yearly for the past 3 years. We could whittle that down. You know, resolve institutional conflict between creating priorities and closing the institutional gap around coordinating a strategic response to changing threats to public safety. I'm part of a national coalition that has seen that done in 3 cities with absolute startling results. And I'm not going to speak over the minute, but thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Voiles? And did we have another commenter here in chambers? If not, that's fine. Okay, welcome.
My name's Donna Storm, and I've worked
Okay,
in...
could you pull the microphone a little closer, please?
Yeah, I'm
Thank
not
you.
very used to public speaking. Sorry about that. My name's Donna Storm. I've worked in social services most of my life, and I work with Middleway House, the triage specialist. I just want to encourage you to really look at some of the personal stories, personal little paragraphs in that CAPS report. It's a long report, but just listen to the people. We have a T-shirt that says "Believe Survivors," and another one that says "Support Survivors." It's all about listening to the people that this is really happening to, and that's part of what the CAPS program is CAPS Commission is trying to get to happen. And that's all I really have to say. I really want to support the work that they've done, and I'm hoping that it carries forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Storm. Anyone else here in chambers? I'm not seeing anyone. Mr. Lucas, anyone on Zoom? Okay. That'll conclude our first of 2 periods of public comment, and that takes us to appointments to boards and commissions. I believe we have several tonight. Any from Interview Team A?